at my daughter's wedding reception, a cleaning woman grabbed my sleeve and whispered urgently, "Mr. Harrison, if you care about your family's safety, you need to come with me right now." I almost pulled away until I saw the terror in her eyes. "Please," she said quietly, "trust me." She led me through the service corridors to a hidden storage room behind the grand ballroom. Exactly 8 minutes later, the conversation I overheard from just beyond that door made my blood turn ice. In that single moment, everything became horrifyingly clear. This wasn't a celebration of love. This was a trap, carefully laid over months, and my daughter was the target. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. I woke up that Saturday morning the same way I'd woken for the past 6 years, alone in a bed meant for two. Sunlight filtered through the curtains of our estate's master bedroom, casting soft patterns across the pillow beside me. Sarah's pillow. In those first drowsy moments, I still reached for her sometimes before memory caught up. Now I just lay there, letting the emptiness settle around me like morning fog. 6 years since cancer took her, and I still hadn't learned how to fill the space she left behind. But today wasn't about loss. Today was about Emma, my daughter. I pushed myself up and walked to the window. The ground stretched below, perfectly manicured lawns, white tents already standing like elegant ships, chairs arranged in precise rows. Everything ready, everything exactly as it should be. She would have loved this, I thought. Sarah would have been up since before dawn, directing every tiny detail, happy tears spilling into her morning tea. She would have made certain Emma knew how beautiful she was. She would have held our daughter's hand through every moment of nervousness and joy. Instead, it was just me. Standing at that window, I made myself a silent promise. I'll protect her the way you would have wanted, the way you always did. I didn't know then what that promise would cost me. By mid-morning, the house hummed with energy. Emma's bridesmaids filled the entire East Wing with champagne laughter and excited chatter. I could hear them from downstairs, those bright young voices reminding me that Emma wasn't my little girl anymore. She was 28 now, a woman about to become someone's wife. Michael's wife. Michael Carter. I pushed the thought aside and headed upstairs. When I knocked on her door, the laughter softened. "Come in, Dad." I stepped inside and the world stopped turning. Emma stood before the full-length mirror in her wedding gown, a cascade of ivory, silk, and delicate lace that caught the morning light like water catching sunlight. Her dark hair was swept up, elegant and timeless. When she turned to face me, her eyes were bright with tears she was desperately trying not to shed. "Dad," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly, "what do you think?" I couldn't speak. All I could see was the little girl who used to stand on my shoes while we danced in the living room. The teenager who'd sobbed on my shoulder after her first heartbreak. The young woman who'd call me from college at midnight just to hear my voice. And now this. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I finally managed. Your mother would be so incredibly proud." She crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me. I held her the way I used to when she was small, wishing desperately that I could freeze this moment forever, keep her safe in my arms just a little longer. "I love you, Dad," she said softly against my shoulder. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." I kissed the top of her head and stepped back before the tears could come. "Let's get you married." St. Catherine's Cathedral was everything Emma had dreamed of. Soaring ceilings, stained glass windows throwing jeweled light across the pews. 200 guests dressed in their finest. The organ swelled as we walked down the aisle together, and I felt every single eye on us. But I only saw Michael. He stood at the altar in a sharp charcoal suit, hands clasped, watching Emma with what looked like complete devotion. Handsome, polished, successful. Everything any father could want for his daughter. So why did I feel that small, nagging whisper of unease deep in my gut? "Stop it," I told myself firmly. "You're just emotional. Every father feels this way." We reached the altar. Father Williams smiled warmly at us both. "Who gives this woman to be married to this man?" I looked at Emma one last time. She was glowing, radiant with happiness. "I do," I said. I placed her hand in Michael's, stepped back, and watched my daughter become someone else's responsibility. The ceremony blurred after that. Vows exchanged, rings slipped on fingers, the kiss, thunderous applause. I clapped along with everyone else, smiling the way I was supposed to, feeling that strange mixture of pride and profound loss that comes with letting go. The reception at the Riverside venue was absolutely perfect. String lights hung from the ceiling like captured stars. Tables dressed in crisp, white linen and touches of gold. A live band played soft melodies as guests filled the space with warmth and conversation. Emma and Michael moved through the crowd like they'd been doing this their entire lives, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, looking every bit the golden couple everyone believed them to be. I watched them take the floor for their first dance. The band shifted into a slow, tender melody. Michael pulled Emma close, and she rested her head on his shoulder. He whispered something that made her laugh, that beautiful sound I'd heard since she was born. The room watched in reverent silence, captivated by them. Something loosened slightly in my chest. Maybe I was wrong, I thought. Maybe everything really will be fine. Richard Thompson appeared at my side with 2 glasses of scotch. "She looks happy," he said, handing me one. "She does. You raised a remarkable young woman, David." I nodded but didn't answer. That small whisper of unease was still there, quiet but persistent, like a pebble in my shoe I couldn't shake. Richard touched his glass to mine. "To Emma. To Emma," I echoed. We drank in companionable silence, and I tried desperately to let the moment be enough. About an hour later, I found myself on the venue's rooftop terrace. I needed air, needed space, needed to stop analyzing every look Michael gave my daughter and every word that left his mouth. "You're being paranoid," I told myself. "Let her be happy." The city lights stretched out below me, distant and quiet. I leaned against the railing and closed my eyes, breathing in the cool night air. "Mr. Harrison." I turned. A woman stood a few feet away, middle-aged, wearing the venue's cleaning staff uniform, holding a spray bottle and cloth. I recognized her vaguely from earlier, moving quietly through the crowd, nearly invisible. "Can I help you?" I asked. She glanced over her shoulder, then stepped closer. Her voice dropped low and urgent. "Mr. Harrison, I need you to trust me right now." I frowned. "What's this about?" She looked at me with eyes that were completely serious, almost frightened. "It's about your daughter and the man she just married." My stomach dropped hard. "What are you talking about?" "I don't have much time," she said quickly, words tumbling out. "But I overheard something tonight. Something you desperately need to know." I stared at her, my heart starting to hammer against my ribs. "Who are you?" "My name is Claire Martinez," she said. "And if you care about your daughter, you'll listen to me." Before I could ask another question, Claire grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "We don't have time for questions," she said, voice tight with urgency. "Come with me. Now." "Wait, what's happening?" "Please, Mr. Harrison." Her fingers tightened. "If you want to understand, you need to trust me." Something in her eyes, something raw and desperate, made me follow. She led me quickly through the rooftop door and down a back stairwell I hadn't even known existed. The music from a reception grew fainter with each step, replaced by the hum of industrial air conditioning and the distant clatter of kitchen staff preparing desserts. We emerged into a narrow service corridor lined with storage closets and supply racks. Claire pulled me into a cramped room filled with cleaning supplies and stacked chairs. The door clicked shut behind us. The space was dim, lit only by a thin sliver of light from the hallway outside. "Stay absolutely quiet," she whispered. "Don't make a single sound." My heart was pounding now, confusion and fear mixing together. What the hell is this about? "Just wait." She moved to the door and cracked it open barely an inch, peering through the gap. I stood frozen behind her, my mind racing wildly. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? A terrible mistake? Was I really hiding in a storage closet at my daughter's wedding reception? And then I heard voices approaching in the hallway outside. "I can't believe you actually pulled that off." A woman's voice. Young. Familiar. Jessica. My blood went ice cold. Jessica, my brother's daughter. Emma's maid of honor. My niece, who'd stood beside Emma at the altar like families should. "It wasn't that difficult, honestly," a man replied, his tone smooth and confident. "Michael." The world tilted violently beneath my feet. Claire glanced back at me, her expression grave and knowing. She pressed a finger to her lips. I stayed silent, but my hands were shaking uncontrollably. Through the crack in the door, I could see them now. Michael and Jessica standing in the hallway just feet away. Close enough that I could see the way Michael's hand rested on Jessica's waist. Close enough to see the way she leaned into him, comfortable and familiar. It wasn't familial. It wasn't innocent. It was intimate in a way that made my stomach turn violently. My niece, my brother's daughter, the girl I'd watched grow up alongside Emma, who used to call me Uncle David and beg me to push her on the swings. Now she was standing in a dimly lit hallway with my daughter's husband, and everything about the way they were touching made me feel physically sick. "You're sure about this?" Jessica asked quietly, looking up at him. "Once this is done, everything will be fine," Michael said. "I know, but it's a lot of money, Michael. 12 million in life insurance alone." The words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. 12 million. Life insurance. "Trust me," Michael said, his voice low and unervingly calm. "The old man doesn't suspect anything. He's too busy playing the proud father. Once everything's in place." "What about Emma?" Jessica interrupted. There was a long, heavy pause that made my chest tighten until I could barely breathe. "She's useful," Michael finally said, his voice completely devoid of emotion. "For now." Jessica laughed softly, but there was no warmth in the sound whatsoever. "You're terrible." "I'm practical," Michael corrected. "And when she's not useful anymore, we'll deal with it then." They moved closer together, and I watched Michael press a kiss to Jessica's forehead. Tender, practiced, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Like she wasn't my niece. Like Emma wasn't her cousin, her best friend since childhood. "Relax," he murmured against her hair. "Everything's going exactly according to plan. 6 months, maybe less. Then we're set for life. Promise?" Jessica asked. "Promise." She pulled back slightly, smoothing her bridesmaid dress. The same dress Emma had helped her choose 3 months ago. The same dress she'd been so excited about wearing. "I should get back before someone notices I'm gone," she said. "Go ahead. I'll follow in a minute." She kissed him once more, quick and deliberate, then disappeared down the hallway. Her heels clicked against the tile floor, fading into the distance. Michael stood there alone for a moment, adjusting his tie in the reflection of a decorative mirror on the wall. He smiled at himself, that same charming smile he'd given my daughter at the altar just hours ago. Then he turned and walked away, whistling softly under his breath. I didn't move. I couldn't. Claire slowly closed the door and turned to face me in the dim light. "Now do you believe me?" she whispered. I opened my mouth, but no words would come out. My mind was spinning wildly, trying desperately to process what I'd just heard. 12 million in life insurance. She's useful for now. 6 months, maybe less. And Jessica, my brother's daughter. Family. Mr. Harrison. Claire's voice cut through the fog filling my head. "Are you okay?" "No," I said hoarsely, my voice barely working. "No, I'm not okay." "What would you do if you discovered your daughter married a monster? Would you confront him immediately, or would you play along to gather evidence?" The choice I made next would change everything. "Stay with me." She stepped closer, her face filled with sympathy. "I'm so sorry you had to hear that, but you needed to know the truth." "How long?" I managed to ask, trying desperately to steady my voice. "How long have you known?" "I've worked at this venue for 12 years, Claire said quietly. "You see a lot when people don't notice you're there. I've been watching them all night. The way he looks at her when no one's paying attention. The way they disappear at exactly the same time. I've seen this before, Mr. Harrison. Men like him. They're predators." I leaned heavily against the wall, my legs suddenly unsteady beneath me. "Jessica," I whispered, the name tasting bitter in my mouth. "She's my niece, my brother's kid. I used to take her to baseball games. I taught her how to ride a bicycle." "I know," Claire said softly. "She was at our house every single weekend when she was little. She and Emma were inseparable growing up. They were supposed to be like sisters." Claire was silent, giving me space to process. "And now she's—" I couldn't finish the sentence. The betrayal was too enormous, too incomprehensible to put into words. She's made her choice, Claire said gently. A terrible one, but it's not your fault. Emma, I said, my voice breaking completely. My daughter. She doesn't know, Claire said with certainty. I'm absolutely sure of it. She wouldn't have asked Jessica to be her maid of honor if she knew. She wouldn't have trusted her. She married him. The words tasted like ashes in my mouth. She stood in front of 200 people and married him. And Jessica stood right there beside her, smiling, holding her flowers, acting like. I stopped, the weight of it crushing down on me. Claire reached in her pocket and pulled out a small card. She pressed it firmly into my hand. My number, she said. If you need anything at all, a witness, a statement, anything, you call me. I'll testify to what I saw tonight. I stared at the card, my fingers trembling. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Claire's expression softened with genuine emotion. Because I have a daughter too. And if someone knew she was in danger, I'd want them to tell me. I'd want someone to care enough to warn me. I nodded slowly, slipping the card carefully into my pocket. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet, she said seriously. Just be careful. Men like Michael don't give up easily. And if your niece is involved this deeply, that means. I know, I said quietly, my mind already working through the implications. It means he's thought this through completely. Claire opened the door carefully and checked the hallway. It was empty now, silent. Go back to the reception, she said. Act completely normal. Don't let him know you suspect anything. And then what? I asked, feeling lost. Then you figure out how to protect your daughter. She slipped out of the room, leaving me alone in the darkness. I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, listening to the muffled sounds of the reception above me. The music, the laughter, the clinking of champagne glasses in celebration. 10 minutes ago, I'd been celebrating my daughter's wedding, feeling that bittersweet mixture of pride and loss that comes with giving away your child. Now I was hiding in a storage closet, trying desperately to process the fact that my son-in-law had just discussed my daughter's usefulness like she was a business asset he planned to liquidate. And my niece, my own brother's daughter, was helping him do it. I had no proof that would stand up in court. No one would believe me if I tried to explain. But I knew the truth now, deep in my bones. And somehow, I was going to have to find a way to save Emma from the two people who were supposed to love her most. Claire's hand on my shoulder brought me back to the present moment. We need to get you out of here, she said softly, urgently. She led me through the service corridor to a side exit. The night air hit me like ice water, shocking and sudden. I leaned against the brick wall, gasping for breath. Take a minute, she said. Just breathe. But I couldn't breathe properly. My mind kept replaying it endlessly. Michael's hand on Jessica's waist. The casual way he'd called Emma useful. My niece kissing him like it meant absolutely nothing. Mr. Harrison, listen to me, Claire said firmly, her voice cutting through the panic. That man is extremely dangerous. I've worked venues for 12 years. I know a predator when I see one. I need to go to the police, I said desperately. With what evidence? She asked gently. You overheard a conversation. No recording, no witnesses except me. It's your word against theirs. Then what the hell do I do? You get proof, she said. Real, solid proof. And until you do, you act completely normal. Don't let him know you suspect anything. She pressed her card into my hand again, making sure I had it. If you need a witness later, you call me. But right now, you need to go back in there and pretend everything is fine. I don't know if I can do that. You have to, Claire said, her eyes intense. For your daughter. She was right. I knew she was right. I straightened my jacket, took several deep breaths, and nodded. I slipped back into the reception through a side entrance. The band was still playing beautiful music. Nothing had changed in the room, except everything had changed for me. David. Michael was walking toward me, smiling that perfect smile. There you are. You okay? You look a bit pale. I forced myself to meet his eyes directly. Just emotional, you know. Big day. He laughed easily and clapped my shoulder like we were old friends. I completely get it. You know how it is. She's lucky to have you. I said, the words nearly choking me. I'm the lucky one, Michael replied smoothly, his charm effortless. Emma's absolutely amazing, and you raise an incredible woman, David. Truly incredible. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice conspiratorially. I want you to know I'm going to take care of her. Whatever she needs, whatever you need. We're family now. The word family made my stomach turn violently, knowing what Jessica was to us, what they were planning together. I'm glad to hear it, I managed. Good, Michael said, squeezing my shoulder, because I was hoping we could sit down next week and talk about some business opportunities I've been researching, succession planning, that sort of thing. I have some ideas that might really interest you. Succession planning. Life insurance. $12 million. Sure, I said, keeping my voice steady. We can talk. Perfect. He smiled wider. Thanks for trusting me with her, David. It means everything. He walked away, back toward Emma. David. Richard appeared beside me with 2 fresh glasses of scotch. You look like you desperately need this. I drank half of it in one long swallow. Richard studied my face carefully. What's going on? Something's wrong. Nothing, I lied. Don't give me that. I've known you for 30 years. Something's very wrong. I wanted desperately to tell him everything. But Claire's words echoed in my mind. Don't let him know you suspect anything. Just a long day, I said finally. Overwhelming. Richard didn't look convinced, but he didn't push further. If you need to talk about anything, you know where to find me. I know. Thank you. He stayed beside me, a quiet and solid presence, as I watched my daughter dance with the man who was planning to destroy her. An hour later, Emma found me near the entrance. She threw her arms around me, laughing with pure joy. I've been looking everywhere for you, Dad. I hugged her tightly, probably too tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. Sorry, sweetheart. Just needed some air. She pulled back, studying my face with concern. Are you okay? You seem off somehow. I'm fine. I lied, smiling for her. Just overwhelmed. Happy overwhelmed. Her face lit up with that beautiful smile. Thank you, Dad. For everything. For walking me down the aisle, for this incredible reception, for just being you. My chest tightened painfully. I love you, Emma. So much. I love you too. She hugged me again, and I tried desperately to memorize this moment. Her weight in my arms, her laughter, the happiness in her voice. She's useful for now. I want to tell her everything right there. Wanted to pull her away from this nightmare immediately, drag her to safety. But I couldn't. Not without proof. Not without evidence she'd believe. Be happy, I whispered against her hair. I am, she said, her voice filled with joy. I really, really am, Dad. She kissed my cheek and disappeared back toward Michael, back toward the man who saw her as an obstacle worth $12 million. The reception ended just after 11. Guests filed out slowly, reluctantly. Emma and Michael stood near the entrance, thanking everyone personally, looking absolutely perfect together. I watched from a distance as they climbed into the hired car, a sleek black sedan decorated with white ribbons and a just married sign across the back window. Emma waved through the window, beaming with happiness. I waved back, my heart breaking. The car pulled away, taillights disappearing into the night. She was gone. I sat in my car in the parking lot for almost an hour after everyone else had left. The venue lights went dark one by one. The staff packed up equipment. The lot emptied until it was just me and the crushing silence. My daughter had just driven off with a man who saw her as an obstacle worth $12 million. And my niece, my own brother's daughter, was helping him plan it all. I couldn't tell Emma yet. Not without real evidence. If I went to her now with nothing but an overheard conversation, she'd never believe me. She'd think I was paranoid, controlling, unable to let go of my little girl. Michael would convince her I'd lost my mind. Jessica would back him up completely, and I'd lose my daughter forever. No, I needed proof. Real, undeniable, solid proof that would hold up under scrutiny. The hardest part wasn't what I'd learned. It was pretending I didn't know. Could you smile at someone plotting to murder your child? I had to, and what came next would test every ounce of strength I had left. The house felt too quiet when I got home. I stood in the foyer just after midnight, keys still in my hand, staring at nothing. The drive home had been a complete blur, just headlights and highway lines, and Claire's warning echoing endlessly in my head. Men like Michael don't make mistakes. I dropped my keys on the entry table and walked upstairs. Sleep was completely impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael's hand on Jessica's waist. Heard his voice saying those words. She's useful for now. At 2 in the morning, I gave up trying and went to my study. The room was lined with framed photographs, decades of memories preserved in glass and wood. I turned on the desk lamp and let my eyes wander across them. Emma at 5, holding a fishing rod twice her size, grinning with missing front teeth. Emma at 12, grass-stained in her soccer uniform, holding a trophy. Emma at 18, graduation cap crooked on her head, Sarah's arm around her shoulders, both of them laughing. Sarah would have known something was wrong. She always knew. She had instincts I didn't possess, could read people the way I read financial reports. If she'd been at that wedding, she would have seen through Michael in minutes, would have known immediately. But she wasn't here, and I'd missed every single warning sign. I sat down and opened my laptop. The screen's glow was harsh in the darkness. I started typing, trying to piece together what I'd been too blind to see. 2 full years of red flags I'd ignored because I'd wanted Emma to be happy. Because I wanted to believe Michael was everything he pretended to be. The questions about my business operations. The unusual interest in estate planning. The casual inquiry about life insurance policies, framed as just making sure Emma's taken care of if anything happens. My foolish answer, $12 million. The smile on his face when I told him that number. The whirlwind engagement after only 8 months of dating. My moment of doubt that I'd brushed aside, telling myself I was being overprotective. His meeting with Robert Klein 6 months ago, saying he wanted to understand California estate law better. I thought it was responsible, mature. Now I saw it for what it really was. Preparation. And Jessica, my niece, always around during the wedding planning, always helping Emma with details. I thought she was being a good cousin, a supportive friend. Now I knew she'd been positioning herself, watching, reporting back to Michael. Every single piece had been there, right in front of my face. Every red flag waving frantically. And I'd missed all of them because I'd been too busy being the proud father, too relieved that Emma had found someone, too blind to see the trap being built around her. At 3 in the morning, I opened Google and typed, "How to investigate someone." The search results loaded. Private investigators, background checks, due diligence guides. I read through them methodically, taking notes, forming a plan in my mind. I needed to know everything about Michael Carter. His real background, his finances, any criminal record, his past relationships, everything. I needed to understand Jessica's involvement. When had this started? How deep was she in? Were there communications I could find, financial records proving the connection? Most importantly, I needed to know their actual plan. What were they going to do? When? How were they planning to get to that $12 million? But more than anything else, I needed evidence. Real, solid, courtroom-quality evidence. Recordings, documents, witnesses, anything that would hold up under legal scrutiny. Because Emma couldn't know until I had absolute proof. If I went to her now, with just an overheard conversation, Michael would deny everything convincingly. He'd make her believe I was paranoid, jealous, unable to let go. And Jessica would lie directly to Emma's face to protect him, to protect herself. My own niece would betray my daughter to save a man who saw Emma as temporary. At 5 in the morning, dawn began breaking outside my window. I stood and watched the light spread slowly across the estate grounds. The same grounds where Emma had learned to ride her bike, where we'd hosted her high school graduation party, where yesterday morning I'd promised to protect her. I should have seen this coming. Should have asked harder questions, done background checks, trusted those gut instincts during the engagement. I should have been smarter, more careful, more suspicious from the start. A good father would have protected his daughter before the threat materialized. But I hadn't done that. And now she was married to a man who wanted her dead. The guilt sat heavy and cold in my chest. But beneath it, something harder was forming, something sharp and determined. Because even though I'd failed to see it coming, I knew now. I understood what was happening. And now that I knew, I was going to protect my daughter with everything I had. Every dollar, every connection, every ounce of strength left in me. Michael Carter had made one critical mistake in his carefully laid plans. He'd underestimated what a father would do when his child was in danger. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen island, watching the sun rise over the hills, waiting. At exactly 8 o'clock, I picked up my phone and made the first call. Robert Klein speaking. Robert, it's David Harrison. David, congratulations on the wedding yesterday. Emma looked absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Robert, I need to see you today. It's urgent. There was a pause on the line. What's going on? I can't explain over the phone. Can you meet me at your office in an hour? Of course. I'll clear my schedule immediately. Thank you. I hung up and dialed the second number, the one Richard had given me months ago for something completely different. Anderson Investigations. Daniel Anderson, please. Speaking. Mr. Anderson, my name is David Harrison. Richard Thompson recommended you to me. I need to hire you for a very sensitive matter. What kind of matter? The kind that involves my daughter's safety and a son-in-law who's planning something I can't prove yet. A pause. Then, I'm listening. Can we meet today? I could do 2 o'clock. I'll be there. The third call was the easiest to make. Richard speaking. Richard, it's David. Are you okay? I need you to meet me at Robert's office at 9. Can you make it? Of course I can. What's this about? Michael Carter, I said quietly, and everything I heard last night. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I hung up and set the phone down carefully. The house was still quiet around me, but it felt different now. Not empty. Focused. The war had begun, and I was going to win it. Because losing wasn't an option when my daughter's life was at stake. Klein and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower in the financial district. I've been coming here for 25 years, but that morning the elevator ride felt longer than usual. Each passing floor gave me more time to rehearse what I needed to say, though I knew no amount of rehearsal could make it sound entirely sane. The doors opened. I stepped into the familiar reception area. Dark wood furniture, law books lining the walls, the faint scent of expensive coffee. Robert's assistant looked up and smiled. Mr. Harrison, he's expecting you. Go right in. Robert Klein stood by his office window. When I entered, phone pressed to his ear. He turned, saw my face, and his expression changed immediately. He ended the call abruptly and set the phone down. David, he said, crossing the room quickly. You look terrible. I feel terrible. Sit down. He gestured to the leather chairs near his desk. What's going on? You sounded urgent on the phone. I sat down heavily. The words I'd practiced vanished completely. Something happened at the wedding yesterday. I began. Robert waited without interrupting, giving me space. A woman who works at the venue, a cleaning woman named Claire Martinez, she pulled me aside during the reception. She said I needed to hear something important. She hid me in a storage closet, and I overheard Michael and Jessica talking in the hallway outside. Jessica, Robert repeated carefully. Your niece? Yes. His face darkened. What did you hear? I told him everything. Every word, every detail. The way they stood together. The discussion about $12 million in life insurance. The casual way Michael said Emma was useful for now. The question Jessica asked about what would happen when Emma wasn't useful anymore. When I finished, Robert was completely silent for a long moment. You're absolutely certain about what you heard? He finally asked. I'm certain. He returned to his desk and opened his laptop. I need to review everything immediately. Estate documents, insurance policies, trusts, succession plans. All of it. That's why I'm here. 20 minutes later, we sat across from each other with a thick stack of documents spread between us. Robert had printed everything, pulled up digital records on his screen. Let's start with life insurance, he said, sliding a document toward me. I recognized it immediately. The policy I'd set up years ago. $12 million policy, Robert said, his finger tracing the text. Primary beneficiary is Emma Harrison. That's correct, right? But 6 months ago, you added a secondary beneficiary. He pointed to a section I'd never paid much attention to. Michael Carter. $7 million if both you and Emma pass away. My stomach dropped hard. I didn't add that. You did, David, Robert said gently. That's your signature right there. Do you remember signing this? I stared at the page. The signature was definitely mine. The date was March. Michael suggested it. I said slowly, the memory coming back piece by piece. He said it was standard practice. Said it would protect Emma and the family in case anything happened to both of us. And you trusted him? Yes. God help me, yes. Robert made a careful note. Next item, the trust fund. He pulled up another document on his screen. $12 million trust established when Emma turned 25. It was locked until she turned 35 or got married, whichever came first. I remember setting that up. She got married yesterday, Robert said quietly, which means the trust unlocked this morning. Emma now has full access to those funds. And as her spouse, Michael has legal rights under California community property law, Robert finished. I felt sick. There's more, Robert said, opening another file. Your corporate succession plan. If you die, Emma inherits your controlling shares in the company. That was always your plan, correct? Yes, but you added a clause 4 months ago. He turned the screen toward me. If Emma inherits and then dies within 5 years, her spouse inherits those shares automatically. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Michael suggested that too, Robert said. It wasn't a question. He said it protected the family. Protected him if something happened. David, Robert said carefully, if you die, then Emma dies. Michael Carter inherits a company worth $52 million. The room seemed to tilt violently. When did Michael first contact you? I asked, my voice barely steady. Robert checked his notes. March. He said he wanted to discuss estate planning as Emma's future husband. He wanted to be responsible. What did he ask about? At first, normal things. Standard questions. Then he started asking what would happen if you became incapacitated. Who would make medical decisions for you? Who would control the company? Incapacitated. I repeated, the word heavy with meaning. He wanted very specific details, Robert said. Treatment decisions, power of attorney, all of it. I walked to the window, staring down at the city below. People moved through their lives completely unaware that a father was realizing his daughter had married a man planning her murder. He's been setting this up for months, I said, the full picture becoming horrifyingly clear. Yes, Robert agreed quietly. And if I go to the police right now, it's hearsay. An overheard conversation and some legal documents that look completely legitimate. Robert didn't argue because we both knew I was right. Can we change everything? I asked, turned to face him. Today, we can, he said carefully, but any significant change triggers automatic notifications to all parties. Michael would know within 24 hours, and then he might act faster than planned, or turn Emma against you completely. Make her think you're trying to control her marriage, her money, her life. I closed my eyes against the impossible situation. Then what the hell do I do, Robert? We need evidence, he said firmly. Proof of intent. Concrete proof that will stand up in court. I already have an investigator, I said. Daniel Anderson. Robert nodded with approval. Good choice. He's excellent. I left the office with copies of every document, every piece of the trap Michael had built so carefully. The elevator doors were closing when my phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Hey, David. Hope you're recovering from yesterday. Want to grab lunch this week? Thursday work for you? Thursday. For days away. I stared at the screen, then typed back slowly. Thursday works. Antonio's at noon. The response came immediately. Perfect. My treat. I put the phone away and waited as the elevator descended. My son-in-law wanted to have lunch. The man planning to kill me and my daughter wanted to sit across a table and smile. And I was going to smile right back. Every meal with a murderer is a performance. Every word carefully chosen. Every smile perfectly fake. I was about to have lunch with the man who wanted me dead. But I had a plan of my own. And this time, I'd be the one setting the trap. The cafe sat on a quiet street, blocks from the financial district. It was the kind of place businessmen used for meetings they didn't want overheard. High-backed booths, ambient noise from the espresso machine, staff who knew not to linger. I arrived 10 minutes early that Tuesday morning and took a booth in the back corner. The waitress brought coffee without asking, her movements practiced and efficient. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug and waited. Daniel Anderson walked in at exactly 10 o'clock. I recognized him immediately from the photo on his agency website. Mid-40s, solid build, the kind of face that had seen difficult things and remembered all of them. He scanned the room once, spotted me, and crossed the cafe with the economical movement of someone who'd spent years in law enforcement. David Harrison? He asked. Daniel Anderson? We shook hands. His grip was firm and brief, professional. He slid into the booth across from me and declined the waitress's offer of coffee with a polite shake of his head. Let's start with what you know, he said without preamble. I told him everything. The wedding, Claire's warning, the storage closet, the conversation I'd overheard between Michael and Jessica, the meeting with Robert Klein, and all the documents we'd reviewed. The life insurance, the trust fund, the succession plan. The way Michael had positioned himself perfectly over 6 careful months. Daniel listened without interrupting. He didn't take notes, didn't pull out a phone or recording device. Just listened with the focused attention of someone trained to hear what people weren't saying as much as what they were. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You've been in business 40 years, he finally said. 43, and you're very successful. I've done well enough. So that means you have good instincts, Daniel said, leaning forward slightly. You can read people. You know when something doesn't add up. Those instincts have kept you alive in a world where one bad deal can destroy everything you've built. I nodded slowly. So when those same instincts tell you something's very wrong with your son-in-law, you should trust them completely. He leaned back again. I've been doing this work for 16 years. Before that, I was LAPD for 14. I've seen hundreds of cases exactly like this. Financial predators who target families, build trust carefully, position themselves perfectly, then strike when the time is right. And what do they all have in common? I asked. The family members always say the exact same thing afterward. They say, I knew something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. You're different, David. You're believing it now, before it's too late. Something loosened slightly in my chest. Thank you for saying that. Don't thank me yet, Daniel said seriously. Let's talk about what we can actually do. He pulled out a small notepad. Old school, no electronics. Investigation scope, he began. First, Michael Carter's complete background. I'll pull everything I can find. Employment history going back 15 years. Credit reports, criminal records, if they exist. Past relationships, bankruptcies, lawsuits. Anything that shows a pattern of behavior. Good. Second, Jessica Reed, your niece. I need to know her exact involvement. When did this start? How deep is she in this? I'll look at her financials, phone records if we can get them legally, social media activity, any communications between her and Michael that we can access. How do you get phone records legally? I asked. Subpoena if it goes to court, but that's later, Daniel said. For now, I have contacts who can pull metadata, call logs, text timestamps, location data. Nothing that violates wiretapping laws, but enough to show clear patterns of communication and behavior. I nodded, feeling slightly better. Third, surveillance. I'll put eyes on Michael. Where he goes, who he meets, what he does when he thinks no one's watching. If he's meeting with Jessica regularly, I'll document every single instance. If there are other people involved in this, I'll find them. Other people? The thought made my blood run cold. These things are rarely just 2 people, Daniel said seriously. There's usually a network of some kind. Friends who know what's happening. Accomplices who help with specific tasks. Sometimes professionals hired for particular jobs. The implication made me feel sick. Fourth, digital forensics. If Michael's planning something this elaborate, there's a digital trail somewhere. Emails, texts, search histories, financial transactions. I have a specialist who works with me on these cases. Completely legal methods, publicly available information, social engineering where appropriate. How long will this take? I asked. Preliminary findings by Thursday, Daniel said. That's 2 days. I'll work fast because I understand the urgency of the situation. But a full investigation, the kind that builds an absolutely airtight case that will hold up in court, that could take several weeks. I don't know if we have several weeks. Then we focus on the immediate threat first, Daniel said. Evidence of imminent danger. Anything that shows Michael or Jessica planning something specific in the very near term. He set the notepad down and looked at me directly. I should mention something, he said. Claire Martinez, the woman who warned you at the wedding. What about her? She's my cousin. Well, second cousin technically. We grew up in the same neighborhood in East LA. She called me Sunday morning and told me everything that happened. Said she'd given you her card and that you might reach out to me. I stared at him. You already knew about this. I knew what Claire saw and heard, Daniel corrected. But I wanted to hear your side of things before I took the case. Wanted to make absolutely sure this wasn't just a misunderstanding or an overreaction on someone's part. And now I'm completely certain it's not, Daniel said. Claire has very good instincts. If she says your son-in-law is dangerous, I believe her without question. Relief flooded through me. Thank you for taking this seriously. I take everything seriously, Daniel said, especially when it involves a man who's been systematically positioning himself to inherit $52 million. He pulled a small device from his jacket pocket and slid it across the table toward me. It looked like an ordinary pen. Recording device, he said. Voice activated. Legal in California under one-party consent law. As long as you're part of the conversation, you can record it without the other person's knowledge or permission. You want me to record Michael? I want you to record everything, Daniel said firmly. Especially that lunch on Thursday. If he says anything incriminating, anything at all about his plans, about Emma, about you, we need it on record. I picked up the pen, feeling its weight in my hand. What if he notices it? He won't, Daniel assured me. It's designed to look exactly like a standard ballpoint pen. Just keep it in your shirt pocket. Click it once to activate recording. Click twice to deactivate. Simple. I slipped it carefully into my jacket pocket. One more thing, Daniel said, his voice becoming very serious. Men like Michael, when they feel threatened or cornered, they escalate quickly. If he figures out you're investigating him, he might move much faster than originally planned. You need to be extremely careful. Don't let him know you suspect anything at all. I'm having lunch with him Thursday, I said. I know. Act completely normal. Be the proud father-in-law. Ask about the honeymoon with genuine interest. Laugh at his jokes. Be warm and trusting. And record every single word he says. We discussed the retainer. $5,000, which I transferred to his account before we left the booth. Daniel gave me his card, told me to call or text anytime, day or night, if anything felt wrong or urgent. He'd send preliminary findings by email Wednesday evening, with a full briefing before my Thursday lunch with Michael. One last thing, Daniel said as we stood to leave. Your daughter, does she know any of this yet? No. Keep it that way until we have solid proof, he said. If you go to her now with just suspicions, Michael will turn her against you completely. He's had 2 years to build trust with her, to make her depend on him emotionally. You'll be fighting an uphill battle you can't win. I know, I said quietly. We'll get the evidence, Daniel promised. And when we do, she'll see the truth clearly. We shook hands again, and he left through the front entrance. I watched him go, then pulled out my phone to check the time. A text notification appeared on the screen. From Emma. Dad, we're back from the honeymoon early. It was absolutely amazing. Miss you so much. Can we do lunch or dinner this week? Maybe Thursday or Friday. I stared at the message, my heart breaking. My daughter. Happy, excited, completely unaware that the man sleeping beside her every night was planning her death. The man I'd helped create the perfect trap for, signing documents I didn't fully understand. My hands trembled as I typed my response. Thursday lunch won't work, sweetheart. I have a meeting. How about next week instead? I want to hear all about the trip. The response came immediately, making my chest ache. Okay. Love you so much, Dad. Love you too, Emma. More than you know. I put the phone away and sat there in the empty cafe for a long time, trying to steady myself for what was coming next. The email arrived Wednesday at 3 in the afternoon. When I opened it, I understood just how much danger Emma was really in, and how carefully Michael had planned every single detail. What I read made me realize we were running out of time. The email arrived at exactly 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon while I was sitting alone in my home office, checking my inbox compulsively every few minutes like someone waiting for medical test results they desperately didn't want to see. When Daniel's name appeared in bold, my heart kicked hard against my ribs. The subject line said simply, Preliminary findings, password protected. I typed in the street name where we'd met that morning, and the document opened. I read it twice, then again, because I needed to be absolutely certain I wasn't misunderstanding what Daniel had uncovered. Michael Carter was 36 years old, born in Portland to an upper-middle-class family. His father had owned a successful regional construction company. His mother had been a school principal. Everything had been relatively normal until Michael turned 23 and the 2008 recession hit hard. The family business went bankrupt within 6 months. His father died by suicide 2 months later. His mother died of cancer 2 years after that, leaving Michael completely alone, traumatized, angry, and apparently determined never to be vulnerable again. The financial picture Daniel uncovered was absolutely catastrophic. Michael owed $340,000. Student loans from an MBA program he'd never actually finished. Credit card debt spread across 8 different cards. Gambling losses documented through casino records and online betting platforms. He'd built this mountain of debt while presenting himself to everyone as a successful financial consultant. And somehow he'd hidden it from everyone, including Emma. But that wasn't the worst part. Daniel had traced multiple offshore accounts in Michael's name. Accounts in the Cayman Islands with suspicious transfers totaling nearly $200,000 over the past 2 years. The source of that money was unclear, murky, impossible to trace completely. But one recent withdrawal stood out like a flare in the darkness. $120,000 transferred directly to Jessica Reed's personal checking account 2 months ago. $120,000 to my niece for setting up my daughter like a target in a shooting gallery. Daniel had also tracked down a woman named Amanda Pierce. She was 32 now, the daughter of a tech executive worth approximately $250 million. Back in 2019, she dated Michael for 5 months. She told Daniel's investigator that Michael had been charming at first, genuinely attentive, seemingly interested in her as a person. Then he'd started asking very specific questions about her trust fund. How it worked, who controlled it, what would happen if something happened to her father. When she caught him trying to forge her signature on documents that would have given him power of attorney over her accounts, she confronted him directly. He denied it first, then broke down completely. Cried, said he was desperate and needed help, played the victim convincingly. She hadn't pressed charges because she'd felt sorry for him, believe his story about being in trouble. But she'd warned him never to contact her again. He never did. He just moved on methodically to the next target. That's what Daniel's report called it. A clear, documented pattern. Michael targeted wealthy women, established deep trust over time, positioned himself for financial gain through manipulation or outright fraud. And Emma had simply been next in line. Jessica's involvement was just as calculated, just as cold. Daniel found that she was drowning in debt too. $290,000 between student loans, credit cards, and a defaulted business loan from a failed real estate venture. Her income as a real estate agent wasn't nearly enough to cover minimum payments. She'd been facing bankruptcy when Michael came back in her life. They'd dated 5 years ago, broken up badly, then reconnected 18 months ago. Daniel's timeline showed that reconnection happened right when Michael started planning his approach to Emma. Jessica had received $25,000 from one of Michael's offshore accounts 17 months ago, right before she'd arranged for Michael to coincidentally meet Emma at a charity event. Then 2 months ago, she'd gotten another $120,000, payment in full for services rendered. Daniel had laid out the entire timeline in the report with brutal clarity. 18 months ago, Michael and Jessica reconnected. 17 months ago, Jessica received her first payment. 16 months ago, Michael met Emma, with Jessica right there to make the introduction look natural and accidental. 13 months ago, they started dating seriously. 10 months ago, they got engaged, with Jessica as maid of honor to keep watch and report back regularly. 6 months ago, Michael got himself added to my life insurance policy and met with Robert Klein to ask detailed questions about what would happen if I became incapacitated. 2 months ago, Jessica got her big payday, her reward for a job well done. And now Emma was married to a man who'd spent over a year positioning himself to inherit at least $52 million if both she and I died within the right time frame. The worst part, the part that made me have to stand up and walk away from the computer because I couldn't sit still anymore, was the digital forensics section. Daniel had managed to pull search queries from Michael's computer through what he called legal means, though I didn't ask for specific details. The searches told me everything I needed to know about Michael's true intentions. He'd researched substances that were undetectable in standard autopsies. He'd looked up how to stage convincing home accidents. He'd studied California's spousal inheritance law extensively and researched how long it typically took for life insurance policies to pay out after a death. He'd Googled the specific differences between dementia symptoms and medication side effects. He'd researched the exact methods he was planning to use to kill us. At the bottom of the report, Daniel had written a note in bold text. David, the evidence suggests Michael began planning this operation before he ever met Emma. She wasn't a romantic interest who became a target over time. She was the target from the very beginning. The entire relationship was constructed as a means to access the Harrison family fortune. I recommend immediate protective measures. This man is sophisticated, patient, and extremely dangerous. I sat back down at my desk and stared at the screen until my eyes burned and watered. Emma wasn't a person to Michael Carter. She was a business plan, meticulously researched and carefully executed. A $52 million business plan disguised as a love story. And I'd walked her down the aisle and handed her over with a smile. I'd signed the documents that made him a beneficiary, that gave him legal access to everything. I'd given toasts while he was already planning exactly how to kill her and make it look like a tragic accident. My phone buzzed with a reminder I'd set that morning. Tomorrow, lunch with Michael, 12:30 at Antonio's. I stared at that reminder for a long time, my mind working through possibilities and dangers. Tomorrow I'd sit across from the man who'd spent 16 months manipulating my daughter into marrying him so he could kill her for money. I'd shake his hand and ask about the honeymoon and laugh at whatever jokes he told. I'd act like the proud father-in-law who couldn't be happier about how everything had turned out. Because if Michael suspected for even 1 second that I knew what he was planning, he might move faster than we were prepared for. And Emma would be dead before I could figure out how to save her. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Thursday morning arrived too fast and too slow at the same time. Antonio sat in the heart of the financial district. Dark wood, leather booths, the kind of prices that separated serious business from casual dining. I've been closing deals here for years, knew the owner personally. Today it felt like walking into a trap I'd built for myself. Michael was already seated when I arrived at exactly 12:30, looking completely relaxed in a tailored navy suit. He stood when he saw me, that same effortless smile I'd fallen for 2 years ago. David, so good to see you. He shook my hand warmly, his grip firm and confident. I ordered us the Burlow. Hope that's all right. Perfect, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. The recording pen was in my shirt pocket, already running. 3 booths away, Richard sat alone with a newspaper spread in front of him. He didn't look at me directly, but I knew he was there, watching. Daniel had insisted on backup, someone who could intervene if things went wrong. How have you been? Michael asked, pouring wine with practiced ease. Feels like we haven't really talked properly since the wedding. Busy week, you know, the usual chaos. He raised his glass with a warm smile. To family. I touched my glass to his and took the smallest sip possible. Everything Michael chose was always excellent, refined. That was part of his talent, his weapon. Sophisticated taste, impeccable judgment, the appearance of someone who belonged in this world. A man who saw my daughter as an asset to acquire and liquidate for profit. Emma's been talking nonstop about the honeymoon, Michael said, his voice warm with apparent affection. The Maldives was absolutely incredible. She texted me some photos. Looked beautiful. She is beautiful, Michael said, and something in his tone made my skin crawl. I'm the luckiest man in the world, David. Truly. The waiter appeared, and Michael ordered for both of us without asking. Ribeye for 2, sides, another bottle of wine. He did it smoothly, confidently, like a man completely in control of his environment. I wanted to talk to you about something, Michael said once the waiter left. Succession planning. You've built something truly incredible, David. something that will last for generations. But if anything ever happened to you, God forbid, Emma would need support. Someone who understands the business, who can help her navigate everything. I appreciate that, I said carefully, but I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. Of course not. You're in excellent health. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. What did your doctor say at your last checkup? Clean bill of health. Said I could live another 30 years if I keep doing what I'm doing. I watched his face very carefully. For just a fraction of a second, something flickered across his features. Disappointment. Frustration. Gone so fast I almost missed it. That's wonderful, Michael said, his voice perfectly smooth again. Really wonderful news, David. In fact, I continued, testing him deliberately, I'm thinking about training for a marathon. There's one in 6 months I'm considering. Michael's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. A marathon? At 63? Why not? Is that safe? The concern in his voice sounded genuine, but felt calculated. The strain on your heart at that age? The risk of serious injury? I'd hate to see you hurt yourself, David. I'm not trying to prove anything. Just staying active and healthy. Of course, Michael said, but his jaw was tight. It just seems like a lot of unnecessary risk for someone in your position. You have responsibilities, people depending on you. Emma depending on you. The food arrived, perfectly prepared and presented. We ate in tense silence for several minutes. Then Michael set down his knife and looked at me with calculated directness. I think it's very important we get everything in order properly, he said. Estate documents, insurance policies, succession plans. Make absolutely sure Emma is protected no matter what happens. Everything's already in order, I said. I know Robert Klein is excellent at his job, Michael said, but maybe we should review everything together. Make sure there aren't any gaps we haven't considered, any scenarios we haven't planned for. What kind of scenarios? Accidents, for instance, Michael said, watching my face. If something happened to you suddenly, a car accident, a fall, anything unexpected, we need to make absolutely sure Emma has immediate access to resources and support. I set down my fork carefully. Michael, I'm not planning to have any accidents. He laughed, but there was an edge underneath it, sharp and cold. Nobody plans for accidents, David. That's exactly why they're called accidents. But they happen every single day. And when they do, the people we love need to be taken care of properly. The way he said it, so reasonable and concerned, would have sounded perfectly normal to anyone listening casually. But I heard what was underneath the surface. The impatience, the frustration that I wasn't cooperating with his timeline, that I was still healthy and planning to stay that way. How's Jessica doing? I asked, changing the subject deliberately. I haven't heard from her since the wedding. Michael's jaw tightened visibly. She's fine, busy with work. She seemed stressed at the reception that night. She's fine, Michael repeated, his tone making it clear the subject was closed. His phone buzzed on the table suddenly. He glanced at it, and I saw his expression change completely. The smooth charm cracked for just a second, revealing something darker underneath. It buzzed again, insistently. I'm sorry, Michael said, standing abruptly. I need to take this. Important client. He walked toward the restrooms, phone pressed to his ear, his entire body language shifting. I glanced toward Richard. He gave me the smallest nod of acknowledgement. Michael was gone for almost 5 minutes. When he came back, his entire energy had shifted dramatically. The easy confidence was gone, replaced by something tighter, more urgent, barely controlled. Everything okay? I asked innocently. Fine, he said tersely. Just word complications. He sat down but didn't touch his food, his mind clearly elsewhere. Listen, David, he said, leaning forward with new intensity. About those documents we discussed. I really think we should meet with Robert next week. Tuesday, maybe. Get everything reviewed and updated properly. Why the sudden rush? It's not a rush, Michael said, but his voice was strained. It's being responsible. For Emma's sake. She's my wife now, and I need to make absolutely sure she's protected no matter what happens. He was pushing too hard now, his desperation starting to show through the cracks in his performance. I could see it, and part of me wondered if he could see that I could see it. Let me check my schedule, I said carefully. I'll let you know. We finished lunch with strained small talk that felt increasingly hollow. Michael insisted on paying, making a show of it for the waiter. Outside on the sidewalk, he put his hand on my shoulder. Heavy, possessive, territorial. "I hope you'll be with us for a very long time," he said, his eyes searching mine. "Lydia needs her father." "We both do. I'm not going anywhere," I said firmly. He smiled, squeezed my shoulder once more with uncomfortable pressure, then walked to his car. A brand new BMW he'd bought himself with money he didn't actually have. I watched him drive away, and for the first time since Saturday night, I felt genuine fear. Not for myself, for Emma. That was painful to watch, a voice said quietly beside me. I turned. Richard had appeared at my elbow. It was worse than I expected, I admitted. "David." Daniel Anderson was standing across the street, partially hidden in shadow. He crossed over to us, his expression dark with concern. "I got it all," he said quietly, patting his jacket where I knew he had recording equipment. Every single word. And that phone call he took, that was Jessica. I had someone listening on her line. My heart stopped. What did she say? Daniel met my eyes directly, and what I saw there made my blood run cold. She said, "They're asking questions. I think the old man knows something. We need to move faster." The world tilted beneath my feet. Emma was in immediate danger, and time had just run out. I invited Emma to dinner Friday evening at the estate, just the two of us. I told her I wanted to hear about the honeymoon properly, without the rush of texts and phone calls. She sounded so happy when she agreed, her voice bright with joy. And that happiness made what I was about to do even harder, even more necessary. I made her favorite meal using Sarah's old recipe, the one Emma had loved since she was 7 years old. It felt right, having her mother's cooking at the table for this conversation. I needed all the help I could get. Emma arrived at 7, glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years. Marriage looked good on her, or at least the illusion of it did. She hugged me tightly, said she'd miss me desperately. For a moment, I considered saying nothing at all, letting her stay happy for just one more evening before I destroyed everything she believed. But I couldn't do that. Not after what Daniel had uncovered. Not after Jessica's warning to Michael that they needed to move faster. We ate and talked about the Maldives, the crystal clear water, the food, the resort that had exceeded every expectation. She showed me photos on her phone, and I smiled and nodded at all the right moments, but my thoughts were racing ahead to what I needed to say. After her second helping and coffee, I set down my cup and looked at her directly. "Emma, I need to talk to you about Michael." Her smile faded instantly. "What about him? I need you to listen all the way through. Please, can you do that for me?" She put down her cup slowly, her expression becoming guarded. "Dad, what's going on? Have you noticed anything strange about him? Anything that doesn't quite add up?" She frowned, genuine confusion on her face. "What are you talking about?" "At the wedding," I said, the words coming hard. "Someone who worked there warned me about Michael." She hid me in a storage room, and I overheard a conversation between Michael and Jessica. Her face went completely pale. "You were eavesdropping at my wedding?" "It wasn't like that. You were hiding and listening to private conversations?" Her voice rose. "Do you hear yourself?" "Emma, please." They were talking about money. "Life insurance. Michael said you were useful for now, and Jessica asked what would happen when you weren't useful anymore." She stood so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Stop it. Just stop. I know how this sounds." "Do you?" Tears were forming in her eyes. "You're telling me you spied on my husband and twisted his words into some insane conspiracy theory?" "It's not a theory," I said desperately. "I hired someone to investigate him properly. A professional." Her eyes went wide with shock and hurt. "You hired a private investigator?" "I had to." "You had to what?" Her voice shook with anger and pain. "Prove my marriage is some kind of mistake. I'm too stupid to know when someone actually loves me." "That's not what I'm saying at all. Is it really that impossible to believe someone could love me for me?" She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "Is it so hard to imagine that someone would want me without wanting your money?" I pulled the folder from beside me, Daniel's reports neatly organized inside. Michael's debts, Amanda Pierce's testimony, the offshore accounts, Jessica's involvement, his search history about undetectable substances and staged accidents. All of it. Look at this, I said, sliding it toward her across the table. Please, sweetheart, just look at the evidence. She stared at it like it might bite her. I'm not reading lies you paid someone to create. They're public records, I said. Michael has over $300,000 in debt. He tried to steal from a woman he dated in 2019. He and Jessica reconnected before he ever met you. It's all documented, all verified. Stop it. She grabbed her purse from the back of her chair. Just stop. You're in real danger, I said, standing now too. He's planning something. You want me to believe my husband is some kind of con artist? She said through tears. And my cousin, my best friend since childhood, helped him? Do you hear how insane that sounds? I know it's hard to accept. It's impossible to accept because it's not true. She was backing toward the door now. You can't stand that I'm happy. That I found someone who loves me for who I am, not for your money or your name. You've been alone since Mom died, and now you can't let go. So you're trying to sabotage my marriage with these sick lies. I'm trying to protect you. From what? She demanded. From being loved? From being happy? Tears were streaming down my face now too. From being hurt. From being... All I hear is that you don't trust me, she said, her voice breaking. That you think I'm stupid and naive. That you think I don't deserve Real love. I think Michael is dangerous. She laughed, but there was no humor in it at all, only pain. Mom would be so ashamed of you right now. She always said you were too controlling sometimes. I defended you. But this... She gestured at the folder of evidence she refused to touch. This is sick. Digging up dirt and lies to poison my marriage. Mom would hate this. She'd hate what you've become. The words knocked all the air out of my lungs. Emma, when you're ready to apologize, she said, her voice ice cold now, let me know. Until then, don't contact me. Don't call, don't text, don't show up. I'm done. She walked to the door, and I followed desperately, but she stopped in the foyer and turned to face me one last time. I'm your daughter, she said quietly, tears still falling. And you just chose paranoia over me, over my happiness. I'll never forgive you for this. The door slammed shut behind her. I stood there in the sudden silence, listening to her car start and drive away. Then I returned slowly to the dining room. The meal sat untouched and cold on the table. Sarah's recipe. The folder of evidence Emma had refused to read, refused to even consider. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Michael. Hey, David. Emma told me about dinner tonight. I understand completely. You want to protect her. No hard feelings at all. Want to grab drinks tomorrow? Just us guys. We should talk. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. He knew everything now. Jessica had warned him. Emma had confirmed it. And instead of retreating, running, hiding, he was inviting me out somewhere private. I set the phone down carefully on the table and looked at the empty chair across from me. The cold food. The unread evidence. The daughter I just lost trying to save. I tried to protect Emma and pushed her away instead, directly into the arms of the man who wanted to destroy her. And now I had to figure out how to save her when she wouldn't even speak to me. Outside the window, darkness was falling. And somewhere out there, Michael Carter was planning his next move. The nightmare was far from over. It was only beginning. This is my story. A father's desperate fight to save his daughter from a monster wearing a wedding ring. If you stayed with me this far, thank you. Your support means everything. Hit that subscribe button, and remember, trust your instincts. They might save someone you love.